Hello again, everyone, and welcome to this installment of the Practice Profession Educational Series. I'm Danny Bobrow, President of AIM Dental Marketing. Today's presentation is entitled, Get the Media to Do Your Marketing for You. Our very special guest presenter is Jess Todtfeld. Jess is president of Success in Media, Inc., one of the leading business communication and media training authorities in the U.S. Jess works with people who want to create tangible results from presentations, speeches, and media interactions. Whether people want to generate more sales or simply feel more comfortable and confident in front of the camera, Jess delivers the goods to help them achieve their goals. Jess has appeared on NBC, ABC, Fox, and Comedy Central's The Daily Show. While promoting his last book, he set a Guinness record by giving 112 radio interviews in a single 24-hour period. Man, I bet you drink a lot of coffee. He's here to give you solid information that you can put into action today. I met Jess during our speakers dinner prior to last year's scientific session at the American Academy for Oral Systemic Health on the Cleveland Clinic campus. He had so many interesting perspectives and insights about media coaching for the health professional that I thought we had to get him on this series. In fact, I knew we had to. And because we spoke in the same time slot back in Cleveland, I was deprived of the privilege to hear him speak. So I'm particularly excited to hear what he has to say today, too. I think you'll soon agree how fortunate we are that he agreed to spend some time with us. And if you like what Jess has to say, you will absolutely love the special offer he agreed to make to today's webcast attendees only. So be sure to stay for the entire presentation. We expect Jess's talk to run about 90 minutes. Please feel free to submit your questions using the question button on your screen. We'll do our best to get all your questions answered. If not during the webcast, then shortly thereafter. I am joined today by Carissa Johnson, who will field your questions during the presentation, as well as present today's audience poll. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Jess Todtfeld.
Thanks, Danny. It is a pleasure to be here today and be in front of all the folks that watch and listen and read all the information that you put out. So I really want to do a good job and offer plenty of value and make it worthwhile for everyone who has taken time out. So that's where I set the bar for myself today, that everybody walks away and says, wow, that was really worth it, and I got some great techniques that I can implement right away. How about that?
That's what we're looking for.
That's what we're looking for. All right. So, yes, today is Get the Media to Do Your Marketing for You. That would be nice, right? We'll talk about that. It's the secret to getting your selected media, the media that you'd like to be in front of, to want you as their expert. What can we do? What can we do to make that happen? But first, I want to find out about all of you who are tuned in today so I can best customize what I'm talking about and make it work for all of you. So
we just happen to have our handy-dandy polling tool.
Let's do it.
Those of you who have attended prior educational series know that we like to gauge the audience. And we're going to just take a moment to ask you to answer 3 polling questions. And so, Carissa, if you would be kind to go ahead and present those for us, we will get started. And the first question is just tell us who you are in terms of profession. Are you a dentist, dental team member, or other professional? Just take a moment, please.
Yeah, makes it even better today so I can focus in and give you exactly what you need. So click, click. Pay extra attention today. Turn off those other things. Email. Focus in. It's going to be worthwhile.
That's right, because we can tell your attention. Actually, all right. Let's close the poll now. And the results are actually interesting. We've got 60% dentists, 20% dental team members, and 20% other industry participants. So, as we expect, it's fairly dominated by the dental profession, but there's some others we want to consider too, probably in the medical or chiropractic or nutrition field.
Great.
All right. Let's move on to the next question. we're going to do these in rapid succession, right, Jess? And then let
Yeah, this way everybody really feels taken care of. We're going to make it real fast here.
Okay, great. So the next polling question is that you tell us how you want to, why you want to better communicate with the media. Is it to grow your physician referral network, to increase credibility among current patients, to generate more new patients? This is a multiple choice, so you can say all of the above or some other reason. Take a minute and let us know. All right, Carissa, why don't we go ahead and close that poll. And 100%, all of the above. You have absolutely come to the right place.
All right.
And that doesn't surprise me, Jess, because most of the people who attend this series are really committed to increasing their oral systemic footprint, and they do that by acquiring and perfecting clinical skills that distinguish themselves as an oral systemic practice. And then they use that knowledge to reach out and to grow by attracting new patients, communicating with current patients, and communicating with local MDs and other health professionals to grow their referral network. So
good.
Not
so we'll talk
surprising.
about how it all links in with media.
Yep, kind of gratifying. Yep, we sure will. And then the final question is simply gauging your experience with media interviews. Have you done a lot of these interviews in the past? Have you done a few, or are you just pretty much raring to get started?
Yeah, this is helpful. People out there who are listening, it's helpful for me to know so I can speak to all levels. So so we have a nice mix as things are coming through.
Okay. And so the results are 2/3 have done a few, and a third want to get started. So that's great. This is basically geared anyway to ramp you up, whether you've done some or none, so we can get you to be the local authority on the subject or subjects of interest to you. So thank you for that, audience, and let's get back to the presentation.
Get back. Okay. And let me know if you can't see what I have up on the screen now. Hopefully it's switched for everybody to this article that I have from the American Heart Association press release that had gone out, I guess, I don't know, about 6 months or so ago on there. Oh, it says April on there, so middle of last year, saying there's no link between gum disease and heart disease. So, Danny, you and I met at that AOSH conference, and I've been connected with the various dentists and people in this area who really understand the idea of the oral systemic connection, and obviously the journalists did not, because they jumped all over this. It was all they needed to hear, and that this was law, basically. So this article came out saying there's no link. You know, I don't know if you're like me. Sometimes I just read the headline and I say, okay, next article. I don't need to read the whole article. So there were, and let's see here. I just want to end leave. For whatever reason, it was asking me here, do I want to end or leave? Can everybody see my screen all right? Just want to make sure. Okay, good. So here's some other stories. Gum disease, heart disease. These were all off of that press release. You see on there, no link after all? No gum disease, heart problems link. They're stating it as fact. By the way, a number of the dentists and folks who are listening right now are probably thinking, you know, oh, this burns me up, or these are the folks that I was bumping into when I was certainly at that conference, because it was right around the time that this thing came out. Gum disease, USA Today. Notice these are not small outlets. Before it was CBS, Los Angeles Times on top here, USA Today. Gum disease not proven to cause heart disease, experts say. The experts. So it really went around the world. And I'm showing this to you because in my mind, this is the problem. The problem is the media and other groups, and I should really just say other groups who are not you, meaning people who are listening right now, are controlling the dialogue. They're controlling the narrative of what the discussion is. So, you know, we see more articles here. Reuters, do clean teeth protect against heart disease? Nah, that's basically what the story says. they can easily go off the rails and go off the track and start having the conversations that they don't need. And they really need your help to direct them and point them. I used to make this joke, and I'll just put a couple other ones on here as well. I used to make the joke that the media, and this is when I was still working in media, I was a TV producer for 13 years, as I think Danny said before. I'd say the media is like a house cat. You ever shake a little furry toy in front of a house cat and they're very easily distracted? Well, it's exactly the same thing with the media. And I want you to be shaking the fuzzy toy in front of them, which is better ideas than what we see on the screen right now. Chicago Tribune, top doctors aim to fix record on gum heart link. So a few people were trying to change the dialogue, but it was a little too late.
Let me ask you a question if I could, Jess.
Please.
You know, I fully agree and recognize that it's better to control the conversation and really to get in the first lick, if you will. But how receptive are the media, and how much of this is by design, that they throw something controversial out like that and are only too happy to receive opposing views, because then they kind of can create a controversy and they can have, you know, a ball get bounced back and forth? Or is it more difficult once the initial statement has been made?
Well, there's an old phrase, in conflict is drama, and in drama is conflict. Mm-hmm. So it's great, exciting drama for them as storytellers, they're good storytellers, to include many sides of an equation. So yes, if you have people standing up and saying, this is not the case, if the people who are listening right now, if there's some topic, and I'm sure there is, that really riles you up or excites you as a professional, medical professional, since we have a whole bunch of different types of folks who are on today, this could be the start of the topic that you could be reaching out with. And what we're going to customize today are, as I go back here, your own story, what you would like to see as the headline. And if you take out a piece of paper, and I really encourage you to do it so you can really customize what you're hearing today for you, so you have an action plan, so you can do something after today, I'm going to walk you through the steps of coming up with a great idea, thinking about headlines, and crafting the steps that follow from that. So absolutely, Danny, yeah, if there's some controversy, excitement, you know, I was working with a dermatologist over the last couple of weeks, and one of the procedures they work with is something called Restylane. And they wanted to do a headline, you know, is Restylane terrific, or something like that. And I said, you're not grabbing them. It's not a headline. Think about the way those headlines look as we go back over here. You know, gum disease not responsible for heart complications. What? Well, I didn't know there was. I may not have known there was a connection. So instead, what we did was you could reverse aging in 1 hour. That was the topic. Mm-hmm. And that was the headline. So what it meant was this doctor was making the claim that his procedure only took 1 hour and you were reversing aging, and then it opened up the discussion, and that worked.
And I guess the only final point I would make, or, you know, submit to you
yes,
to confirm it, is that in terms of responding, there is only a certain window of opportunity, because it becomes old news really quickly. I guess that's also a function of the media outlet. I mean, if it's a monthly publication, you may have a better opportunity to respond more slowly than if it's you know, a television or a, you know, other broadcast.
Well, here's what I do, and you mentioned in the beginning that I put myself in the hot seat as much as I can, so I'm not just a media trainer and consultant, but I like to be out there in front of the media, not only because it's good for business, but it's also an opportunity for me to test out what I say and put my money where my mouth is, so to speak.
Sure.
So, yeah, what I do is it's very important, and I'll return to this, but it's very important to have a list of media contacts in an Outlook, or I use another delivery platform because I have many thousands of contacts, to be able to write up an email when I see a story, boom, deploy it, say here, and I'll show everybody today exactly what the email should look like. But to be able to hit send, boom, and everybody sees it. And if you're sending it to a few thousand media outlets at once, your chances now are much, much greater of having the handful say, yeah, it sounds like a good story, and that's all you want.
Great.
I'll show you a couple other things I pulled. These are stories also that you probably wouldn't want out there. Los Angeles Times, dentist pulls all of her ex's teeth out. Are these things, since I know we have a predominantly dentist on today, are these the stories you want in your area of profession? Is this what you want out there? I wouldn't. And I know if I were a dentist, my eyes would be rolling saying, you know, please, there's so many better stories out there that people could be talking about. And of course, these you see, California dentist accused of 113 felonies. Oh, that's he was a busy guy. Yeah. Not a good story to be out there. And in terms of the discourse,
accused, by the way, it said accused.
Accused, yes.
You could have been submitting the wrong code accidentally 113 times. You know, it's
well, let's hope not. And of course, you know, when you look at the way dentists are portrayed in movies and media, look, you got we can't forget Steve Martin in Little Shop of Horrors, or more recently, Horrible Bosses over there, Jennifer Aniston. She was sexually harassing her employee there. And The Hangover, he removed his own tooth. That's not good. And so obviously not not what we're going for. But there's good news as I show you what we have out there. And I know if I were a dentist, I'd be looking and rolling my eyes and just saying, come on, is this really what we want our profession to be being portrayed as? But the good news is you can control the story. I know not only from helping clients, but from doing it myself. And it's been a fun ride being able to put the right stories, helping people put the right stories out there. So here's a better one. So now this is the positive side. Energy drinks cause spike in teeth rot. I want you really to notice the headlines and think about what an exciting headline looks like or sounds like. And I say sounds like because if you were tuning into television and they said, this is literally the drill that I use for public relations professionals. I say, if you heard the person on the news say, tonight at 11, we'll hear from someone who can tell you blank. Mm-hmm. And here we'd end up writing something like, that energy drinks cause spike in teeth rot. So you're making it sound more exciting. It's the same story about the fact that there's a spike in cavities, or talking about the sports drinks. So if you look closely, and right underneath, that's New York Daily News, and I'm tuning in today from New York, my home city, and where I operate out of. Sports drinks. That was the story. How can we make sports drinks more exciting? And they. Well,
I know just that we both know, are friends with Chris Kammer, the first president of AOSH, and he's pretty good with sound bites. In fact, maybe he got this from you, but when he talks about energy drinks, he calls them liquid chainsaws for your teeth.
Liquid. So I want everybody to pay close attention to that. Liquid chainsaws. Find a great analogy. It's one of our soundbite elements that I'll be talking and showing you later. But liquid chainsaws, how great is that? You know, a media person will say, oh, that sounds interesting and exciting, and it certainly sounds better than brush your teeth. You know, yeah, we know that. It's like eat right and exercise. You know, yeah, we've heard that a million times. But for the person who comes up with the exciting way of being able to explain that, I'm thinking of Susan Powter. What was her tagline? Back in the day, she had the spiky hair. But for the person who comes up with the interesting way to get it across to everybody, they're the person who gets the attention. Let's see here. Ancient diets discovered through dental plaque. So somebody who is doing a little history work was able to turn this into a story, in which essentially you can, all of these are jumping off points for all of the other things, excuse me, that you want to be able to talk about. So plaque, you can continue to talk more about plaque, but ancient diets, ooh, that's kind of interesting. Maybe you want to talk about Obamacare. So expanding it out to some of the other folks, the people who fell into that other category, and maybe even some of the dentists too. I know anytime I go to the doctor or any of the healthcare professionals that I consult with, they get all fired up about Obamacare and what that means or what the changes or what people should know and all that. So you can think of many different stories you can offer the media. So what I'm bringing you to as of right now in our talk today, in our discussion back and forth. And by the way, if you have questions, put it in that chat box so that I can answer them as we're going along, and certainly we'll have a whole talk back at the end if you like. But if there's something that fires you up, what I want you to do, and what I've been talking about before, is I highlighted some of the stories out there that we don't really want out there, but I'm talking right now about the fact that you really can control the dialogue and the discussion. 5 exemptions to the healthcare reform law. Maybe you know something about that. By the way, media people love lists. So if you're pitching a story to the media, and I'm going to show you how to do that, and you offer something that says the 5 reasons why your local dentist is failing you. Now, usually we probably wouldn't want to make somebody else in the same profession look as bad. Some people say, no, I have no problem with that. Other people saying, I'd pick a different story. How about 5 things you can do right now to be healthier in the new year, since it's a new year?
Or 5 steps you must, or 5 considerations before choosing your next dentist.
There you go.
A popular one.
The 5 questions to ask to choose the best dentist. And oddly enough, all 5 of them, or the positive answers, lead them towards you. And I know if I read an article like that, I'd be thinking, I might as well go with this person. Now we talked we talked a little bit about Dr. Chris Kammer, who went through one of my media training workshops about, I think 6 or 7 years ago, something like that, and led me to meeting all these folks and our conversation today, really. So he is somebody who also says I should be controlling the discourse. You can do it in your own way. His way was going out there and auditioning in front of American Idol. Here he is again doing his thing, and I think he went out and sang poorly, and he had this enormous toothbrush, and it was cute, and it made it on the show. But it's the jumping off point that you want. How do you feel most comfortable going out there and getting people to engage in the discussion that you want?
Chris is not exactly a wallflower. But,
no, he's not.
This
might not be for everybody.
It's even when I coach my clients on how to connect with first-time telephone callers, I just explain that you can pretty much predict the type of call you're going to get. And in this case, you even have more control because you know what you want to talk about. It's simply, therefore, just a matter of agreeing on the verbiage and then just practicing it. And with anything else, the more you do it, the easier it gets. So you don't need to be a high type A personality to be successful. In fact, if you watch some of the authorities, some of them are extremely low key. They knew how to connect with the media.
That's it. Speaking of connecting with the media, so I said I like to put myself in the hot seat. So I've been on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart. They came and they interviewed me about media training and media training techniques. It's floating around on the internet, I'm sure, if you look around. And it was very enlightening to me, because here it is, their show, they go out there, they try to make people look silly. And obviously that wasn't my goal. And the person who lost the most sleep over this opportunity, as I saw it, was my wife, who said, they're going to destroy your business, you're going to look terrible. I said, wait, I'm the media guy. I'm supposed to be able to be able to make it through any type of interview and be able to turn it into something good. So
no such thing as bad publicity, right?
Well, yes, and I bet we could debate that, as I'm thinking of that article of the guy with 113 felonies. If in fact it's true, that would probably, I wouldn't be that thrilled. But that's the phrase that they always say: no such thing as bad publicity. I mean, I like to say if your gut is telling you that this is a bad idea, well, then don't do it. But I usually tell people that 98% of the time it's usually something good, and it is good publicity. And so anyway, what I learned out of this was, you know what, I did not try to be funnier than the other guy. That was bad. I also, he was trying to put words in my mouth, so I'm going to give you the first little nugget today, which is don't repeat the negative in an interview. But one of my other goals today is to erase as much of the unknown from this process. So all of you can go out there and really feel like you can, one, pitch the media in a way that gets them to choose your story, and two, feel confident enough that you can do the job when they show up. So this was obviously my toughest interview. I'll let you know when I do 60 Minutes, and we'll see how tough that is as well. But what I learned was don't repeat the negative. So they would say silly things, and I didn't repeat what they said. I essentially did a technique that I call rewriting the question in your brain, which is saying, what are they really asking, and then answering that. So it's still an answer to the question, but I didn't repeat when they said, you know, aren't all of your clients idiots when they come to you and they don't know these things? I'm not going to say that. That would be silly. Now, going back through the internet, YouTube, and I know I showed you some real tough stories, medical professionals. There really were a lot of people, or not a lot of people, there were a handful of people, I should say, who were doing a good job, who were putting the right stories out there, but I want more people who are putting the right stories out there and being able to get the right job done. And when I say getting the media to do your marketing for you, obviously you have to do something. You can't just sit there quietly, but I want to make it as easy as possible so it feels that way. And what I mean is that you think up a story, and literally in 5 minutes you write up an email the way I'll show you, and you hit send. So you have to have these names and emails all set to go in whatever system that you have, and you need to do it where it says hi first names, meaning hi Danny if I was sending it to Danny. And you can do that through Outlook Mail Merge. You can do it through some of the other systems that are out there. I like something called Your Mailing List Provider, but a lot of people use Constant Contact, similar type thing. But you can plug it in there. A lot of those even have tracking, which is kind of nice, so you see who opened it and all that. But essentially, after it's set up, and you can have an assistant or someone who works with you, or if you have a teenager at home, they can set that stuff up for you very easily, and you can be able to quickly send something out. So Danny mentioned the Guinness record campaign, essentially, that I ran, and I want to tell you exactly what happened, but what it means to you and what you can do, and basically the secrets. So I had this book coming out, and it was about the other area of my business, which relates to speech training and public speaking, presentation training. And you'd think that that does not sound exciting to media people. If hey, you want to do a story on speaking or public speakers? No, it doesn't sound that exciting. So what we did was, and I had a co-author, and actually a friend had just said, you know, hey, you're the media guy. You better do this thing bigger than anybody else. This is how this came about. And I said, oh, okay, what are you suggesting here? And he said, how about something Guinness record big? And I laughed, and I said, I don't even know if there's a record in this category. And sure enough, turns out there was, and it was on radio, because that is an easy way to do many interviews. And the old record was 72 interviews. So we said, all right, well, let's come up with a plan. And essentially, the plan that we use for this is the structure of what I'm going to show you when I talk about reaching out to media. So we compiled the list, and here comes the secret. The secret. The secret that, and the biggest secret, was we reached out to radio stations, but not just any old person who's, you know, Joe producer or segment producer or booker, and these are some of the titles. I put together a list of the program directors. So here was my experience when I was a TV producer. If the president of the network got a pitch, now nobody, you'd think, why would somebody send a pitch email to the president of the network? Well, I don't know, but they did. If they got a pitch and the president of the network opened his email, and he did, and would read it and say, oh, it sounds good, and at various times, at various times I worked on a morning show at some of the cable news networks, And they'd hit forward, they'd send it to our executive producer and said, hey, maybe you want to do this on the show. Executive producer would print it out, and the word maybe was usually dropped. It was the president of the network sent this to me and said, maybe you want to do this, meaning you better do this. Now, I know, and by the way, I did a test on this to see, if it really meant that that's the case. And I once found just a ridiculous pitch that was terrible that came to me in the mail, and I put a Post-it on it and wrote, maybe you want to do this, and wrote Roger, which was the name of the president, and put it on my executive producer's desk, and I literally saw him walk over, see it, and go, ah, and hand it to me and say, hey, Jess, can you book this? And it was just because they figured that the boss said yes. So the list I put together was program directors. So to get that Guinness record, program directors, we sent it out and said, here are a bunch of different story topic ideas that may work for your show. Would this work for one of your shows? And I'll show you some of those emails as we continue. And they forwarded it on to their showrunners and some of the hosts, and like magic, they called us and said, hey, I got this thing from my boss, and yeah, do you want to be on? So they may not have wanted to do it right away, but of course I tried to do a great job and make it fun and exciting. And we had many different angles on it. There was a political angle. There was pop culture angles. There were, about fear of speaking, all different angles. They could choose the one that they wanted, and it worked out well. All right, myths. I want to just talk about a couple of myths here so that we can get it out of the way. We can clear any of the gunk. One big myth is, that you have to be famous to get in front of the media. Jess, I'm not famous. They don't know who I am. They already have their on-air person or their doctor. Well, you can easily become their new go-to person as long as you have something interesting to say. When I worked at ABC, NBC, and Fox, we didn't care as long as you had something of value. Here's another myth, that you have to fit a certain media mold. So some of you out there may say, well, I have something good to offer, but, I don't have the right face, or, and actually the dermatologist, I'm not going to mention who it was, who I talked to in the last week, he literally said out loud, I'm a boring guy. And I said, no, you don't want to be saying that. I said, obviously you have something interesting to add to the equation because we just spent an hour talking about a lot of it. I said, so stop saying that. We create our own limits. I said, don't make this one of them. And he said, oh, all right. And again, it's all putting it into that little headline, thinking about how to tighten it up and make it into a headline. So you don't have to fit a certain media mold. You don't have to have the certain type of face or look. You have to have something great to add to the equation. Another myth, interviews are scary. Well, when I do my speeches about public speaking, people always say, what's the deal with the fear of speaking? And I'll always tell them that it's not really a fear of speaking, that it's really a fear of the unknown. So this is something you can take into all areas of your life. If we can remove as much of the unknown, we can get rid of that fear. So that's really what I want to do today. I want to eliminate as much of the unknown from all of the elements, both on pitching the media and also from being in front of the media. Really, the starting place can be thinking about being media ready. So they're not scary. It's a myth. I'm making it a myth. Myth number 4, that you have to be a great speaker. You can learn along the way how to be a great speaker. And a lot of it, you can listen. I am hopefully demonstrating much of it today. I'm trying not to pat myself on the back, but what I'm doing right now is I'm using the highs and lows of my voice. I'm trying to convey my passion. I really am passionate about what I'm talking about, so I'm not lying right now. I'm using my body language even though you can't see me. So you don't have to say, well, I'm not already a great speaker. What you have to do is connect with that passion, have great energy, and then people will feel it. So don't get caught up. And as time goes on, you will become an even better speaker. Some of you may already say, hey, I already am a great speaker.
And I think that's a really good point to, if I may just briefly talk about. When we talk about connecting with telephone callers, we talk about the keys being establishing rapport, conveying empathy, and exuding enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And then asking the right questions in the right way at the right time, and then shutting up and listening. And obviously, depending on the media that you're talking to, but really it doesn't depend. Initially, it's probably going to be a conversation. And without going into too much detail, the major components of effective communication are visual, verbal, and vocal. And when you're on the phone, you lack the visual component, which, by the way, accounts for 55% of effective communication. So really, when it comes to communicating, and this goes a long way toward explaining why people have sometimes difficulty connecting with people on the phone, it's because you're dealing with half a deck. 55% of the communication element, the visual, is gone. And so you really want to accentuate, as you're doing, Jess, is to carefully choose the words and then carefully use the words that you choose.
And that's it. Absolutely. And this is why I'm not afraid to hit escape for a second here. I know this, Danny may get him nervous here. But for people who are doing webinars, you know, I like to offer as much techniques as possible. You were talking about the visual. People can see us right now. So when there are opportunities to switch to something like that, people don't mind that I hit escape for a second and you saw me scroll through, because they get to see, and oh, okay, that's where the information is coming from. All right, so I'll do it again real fast. And all right, so we were up to this here. Now, begin with the end in mind. Very important. So you have to know, and we did this in the polling. Are you at, and everyone said, I want it all, but that's fine. You talked about the MD referral network. So when I say, so you may say to yourself right now, Jess, what do media interviews have to do with the MD referral network? Well, if you do an interview, whether it's in your hometown or it's in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which I'm guessing is not your main town, your hometown, and for the sake of this conversation.
We have clients there.
You do have fun.
Don't just Albuquerque.
I'll have to make up a town so that people say I'm not from there. Bismont, Alamazoo. Okay.
All right, good one. Good one. No one from
so yeah, it's not even a real place. So if you're doing an interview in another location, could be print, could be TV, could be internet, and you did a great job and you talked about the topic that you want to talk about, and you sounded great, whether through the printed word or through audio visual, you sounded great with what you delivered. That now can be part of your marketing materials, and absolutely should be part of your marketing materials. And as people refer you, they have this piece of collateral to say, hey, this person is being talked about all over the nation or all over the world, depending where you are. Because you may have gotten something from Canada, or those people who are tuning in from Canada, and something in the United States, any of those things. So you really sound like you are the global expert. Meanwhile, some of the people I talk to, their initial thought is, oh, well, it's not my main area here, so I'm not going to get the foot traffic that I want. And the ultimate outcome may be that you want more foot traffic, you want more clients, you want more patients who come in and work with you. So if they go to your website and they see these media articles, or they see you talking on some interview somewhere about something that you do and your passion for what you do, they're going to get it. So nowadays it really goes all back to what you put on your website, which is often your main big piece of marketing that is out there for people. So it always enhances it. So I think media is a huge part of it. And knowing that you want more business, deciding for the interview. So this is where I say that I'm really not being loose or saying let's start with our goals. This is very, very important to start and know what the end goal is when you do interviews. So if you say I want more business, then you think, what do I have to say in an interview that would excite people and help me drive business? What would this be like if it were on my website? How can this stand alone after the interview as a marketing piece. You know, honestly, most people are not going to see, hear, or read about you when the article or TV show comes out. When I showed you that Daily Show piece, while a number of people did see it the day of because I was sending something out through, you know, Facebook and social media saying, hey, tune in, a lot of people saw it on my website or Googled it or one of those things and said, you know, wow, look at that, and were impressed. But I have to think, what is the end goal? The end goal is I wanted it to add credibility. To achieve actual results, we must plan accordingly. So whatever it is that you want, you really have to plan. And, you know, hey, look, Times Person of the Year. You can really do interviews, and as long as you're thinking that, and that particular year, it was the internet. You know, you're the person who's doing it. We can all do it ourselves. Taking these interviews, being very strategic too, with who you send it to, and how you put it on your website. Maybe even taking only a piece of an interview. Maybe you didn't like most of it. I had one, and well, I'll mention it now, but I had one where I was mentioned in the same week I was mentioned 3 times in the Washington Post, and one of the times the person was upset about something that I had said, which was actually a good thing. I'll give you the full story later, but they started by saying Jess Todtfeld is a media expert, and I don't like the email he sent out because of blah, 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 blah. From now on, I could always say Jess Todtfeld is a media expert. So don't underestimate the power. So, okay, here's what I want to do.
And you mean attribute it to them, just to make sure the point isn't lost, Jess, that
yes.
it was in writing, and you can honestly state that that publication has referred to you as a media expert.
Yes, and I use it in all of my marketing materials. I use it in speeches if someone is introducing me. I'm not sure if you mentioned it today, if I had given it to you, but it's something that everyone who's listening right now could put on their the top of their website. And you know, you want to push for those things, and you can be strategic in your pitch email. It used to be that you needed all these pitch materials. Now it's just an email. But you can, if you get somebody along the way to call you, let's say Jacksonville's, I'm just picking a random city, Jacksonville's premier doctor or premier dentist. If somebody called you that, maybe you can find somebody who can just say it. Then you can start putting in your press materials, and similar to what happened with Michael Jackson, not everybody remembers this, but he came out one day and said, from now on, I'm going to be called the King of Pop. And they did it. They just plain did it. And this caught the attention at the time of Howard Stern, who said, from now on, you are all to call me the King of all media. And he held a press conference, and people laughed and said, you know, oh, what an idiot, I can't believe he's doing this. And he said, all of you will forget this press conference, and then eventually you will just call me that. And he was right. That's exactly what they did, and at least 20 years later, they're still doing it. So let's customize what we're doing today. So for all of you who are tuning in right now, I want you to take a blank piece of paper out, because this is customizing your story. I want you to think about that topic that you can talk about. What excites you? What are you passionate about? What is something that is not being talked about? When I was at the AOSH Scientific Conference, I loved that one of the speakers got on stage and was talking about pH balance in your mouth. So I would say the story, if it were a media story or I'm pitching the media, it would be, is your mouth pH balanced? Question mark. I never thought about that, and it plays into the whole pop culture reference of that commercial about men and women and pH balance and whatever that underarm deodorant was. Here are some possible topics for those who are listening right now and saying, I don't know. And I really encourage you to write down a topic, because I want you to walk away with something you can use. So it could be 5 ways to get whiter teeth. You know, I know about the Zoom. I did it about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's still great, and I'm excited about it. But there are many different techniques, and some of them are terrible. So you could have some fun with it too. You can mention one or two of the ones to avoid. You can mention 5 great ones. You could do that. Obviously, pick something that works with your practice. Why fixing your teeth just might get you that next big job. So again, these are jumping off points, meaning the interviewer says, oh, that's pretty interesting, and says, well, I've been writing about the economy. Great. Okay, let's talk about this. And one local dentist says, it could be the thing that gets you that big job, and you talk about the importance and this and that, and even a few things that people are doing and doing in your office, and it'll hopefully drive more business. And it sounds kind of interesting. 5 ways to become more kissable. That sounds like a good Valentine's Day angle. Now, notice I didn't mention technique for, something that you use to help people who have terrible breath. Now, you may have something that you use or recommend, or a list of things that people need to do if they have bad breath. So, phrasing it in a way like this, 5 ways to become more kissable, makes it exciting.
You're saying in general, take the positive as opposed to the negative road in most cases? Because I know fear can be an appeal also.
Fear could be, just me personally, I tend to, it's just the way I tend to go more of the time. I go to the positive, but let's do the negative, and you're absolutely right. Fear is a great motivator, and fear is something that plays into advertising and marketing. So if I said 5 things you must change, or your teeth will start falling out soon. Something like that. Have some fun with it. I would stop and read that article, wouldn't you?
Yep.
If I don't change these things, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm drinking 3 gallons of Coca-Cola every day, and that's not a good thing. I would imagine. But maybe there are other things people are doing, like and from going to this event and hearing others, maybe something like sipping all day long, sipping this, sipping that, is affecting that pH balance. And so taking a topic like that leads us into this great discussion. But you're doing the work that the media needs help with. And as soon as you, when I said them promoting you, as soon as you wave that little cat toy in front of them, like saying 5 ways to become more kissable, they say, I get it. That's the story. It's fun. It's exciting. He's a doctor. He has something to offer. Let's do it. Why Obamacare, I mentioned that earlier, is ... whatever it is that your take is on that. God bless you. The secret to living longer. So the secret to living longer, you can talk about the whole oral systemic connection, and that is framed now as living longer. So I want you to either take one of these or take something else that you talk about, and I want you to write it as a snazzy headline. I want it to be tight. You could do the number angle, but ideally, in the last couple of minutes, everybody who's listening in was able to at least write a topic or a few topics as a headline, because that's very important for your pitching. So we at least did that. All right, here comes the next step for messaging. So what is a media message? Well, a message in general is anything that comes out of your mouth. A media message are the things that should be in the interview. So if I were to do an interview today on media training, and here come a few messages. One is you need to get your pitch really down. You need to be thinking about the delivery or the sound of your voice. My dog ran away today and I twisted my ankle. Now the first few were great as media messages. Those last 2, not so much. And I say it jokingly, but people go off into conversations about they enjoy boating and golf and this one. I've seen it happen over and over and over. And what happens is they muddle the interview. It takes precious time, and you're losing an enormous opportunity. You want to stay on message. It means you want to stay talking about what you want to talk about, being strategic, thinking about what should be in the interview and what you want to see on your website. So to clarify, we're thinking about this in reverse. So here's the technique that, as you see on the screen, I use with big CEOs, UN officials. Here's how it works. You write down for 7 minutes. Oh, I'm going to go back to that. 7 minutes. Here's what you do on a sheet of paper. Everything that you wish you could say in that interview. So the answers, not the questions. I'll pause and let that sink in for a second. Notice that's a technique, by the way. So you're going to take 7 minutes, and you're going to write the answers, not the questions, the answers you wish you could deliver. So here's what happens when I do this. People are writing down, so you know your topic, or it will make this harder, and you say, great, if the interviewer had said to you, let's say Danny is being interviewed, Danny, I'm too lazy to ask you good questions. How about I just let you talk and you say whatever you want and we'll just run it? What would you do with that golden opportunity? So I say that to people and say, now start writing. And they write and write and write and write. After 7 minutes, they stop and they look at this sheet of answers and they say, holy cow, if I said half of these things, it would be an enormous win. That's half of the messaging system, as I call it.
Well, I think the truth is that while the interviewer would never say that, the people that make it easiest for them are the ones that get the leg up in terms of getting their message heard. So they may not be lazy, but a lot of these people have a lot of tight deadlines, and it's the one that's the easiest to work with, I think, not necessarily the authority, which I think goes to the point is, while it should be the most important factor, you don't even need to be the best or most knowledgeable on your subject. It's a much bigger package than that in terms of how to benefit the person that you want to connect with, I think.
And if you have a sense of where you should be going with your conversation, you're doing the most important work for them. Many of them that I've trained, journalists, have said, you know, a lot of people think that we're asking gotcha questions, but it's not gotcha questions. We're just throwing out a bunch of things to see what sticks. I've literally had a number of people who work on the national level even say that to me.
And that, again, that relates so much to the telephone skills. When a prospective patient calls an office, they'll ask you how much a crown costs, or they'll ask you if you're in their insurance plan. You think about it, they didn't just wake up deciding to get some information on the relationship between you and their insurance company. They have a need. They're just not in a position to articulate it, which is why it's important for you, your call handler, to take control, which is very much, I think, the same thing you're saying here, Jess, which is while being respectful and not manipulative, you really want to gain control of this conversation, don't you?
That's it. And you want to be strategic about it. We're thinking about the answers we want to deliver, and when we stare at that sheet after we've written it, we say, wow, this is, if I just did this, it would be perfect. And what happens is if we don't have that, if we don't have that game plan, and I'm going to show you how we put it into what I call the roadmap. If we don't have it, we're kind of floating around. We're saying, we're talking about this, we're talking about that, we don't know where we're going. So here's how we make it even better. We take that list. After writing down, you may say, Jess, why 7 minutes? Well, 5 minutes is too short. As soon as you go over 10 minutes, you are just, it's going to be turning into a thesis. So we don't want to do that either. So I say 7 minutes, you can get the main ideas out of your brain. Can you refine it after that? Sure, I'm not going to stop you. But here's what you do. In 7 minutes, you get the basics of this. We want to put them into 3 categories. So you take a new sheet. As you see it on the screen here, we turn it sideways. By the way, what I'm giving you right now, when I work with big companies, they pay thousands of dollars to have me sit there and do this stuff with them. And then, of course, we do the videotaping and rehearsals and all that stuff, which I certainly encourage all of you to try. But you're getting something big right now that I've included today. Okay, so what we do is we take those answers and we want to put them into 3 categories, but we want to name those categories. So we start looking for things that are common with the answers that you've written out. So sometimes we notice that the person has written down a lot of the problems, many problems that are out there. So if we were talking about the segment for making yourself more kissable, if that were it. Well, Some of the problems are your breath stinks, your teeth look funny, a few of the other things, on the whole, you don't seem all that approachable. These could be problems that you write down. What are some of the solutions? And when it comes to the whole package, you could, say, haha, well, I'm not a stylist. Take somebody, say, of the possibly of the opposite sex who maybe knows more about it than you. That's what I'm thinking. As a man, having done that, having taken my wife go with me places, or whoever knows more than you, go fix that up. That's one solution. Use what we offer for bad breath. That's another solution. You could fill those all up. Call to action. This is very important. So a lot of times when people try that technique that I've talked about, where they write out all of the answers, they tend to write many of the problems, but not many of the solutions, and no call to action. So when I have them take those answers and write them now into these 3 boxes, and the headings can be whatever you want, by the way, they start to realize, wow, I can really talk about the solutions, and it can be amazing. I could be really offering a lot of value to the people who are listening and exciting them. And the call to action is not just go to my website. Call to action is telling them to do something. So it's saying, hey, ask yourself this question: do I want to be alive 10 years longer? Right? Do I want to turn my spouse and friends off because I have bad breath, if that were the topic that I happen to pick? You can put all these things in the action, and also for call to action, you can say, I have a free video, or a free, I hate to say report, but a free top 10 list on my website, and it tells people what they can do, no cost, like I said. Now, I'm not even going to say the website. So this is a technique called pitching with plugging without plugging. If I said that, and it's free to all of your, Danny, it's free to all your listeners right now, and it's on my website, what would you be compelled to ask me?
Your website address, I suppose.
Exactly. Oh, well, what is that website? Exactly. That's how you get them to pitch for you and do the plugging, but you're just giving the value, but you're doing it as a call to action. Here's a perfect example of, and by the way, before I give you that example, these 3 topics can be facts or details in the first column, could be benefits in the second column, and call to action I like as a third one. I had a woman who had a diet book. One of the 3 categories was easy. She talked about, this is so easy, and maybe for people tuning in today, if you're talking about a new procedure or something like that, maybe easy is one of the topics. You don't have to rearrange your whole life. You don't. If I'm talking about a procedure, it can be done in a short 1 or 2 hour session. You won't be in any pain afterwards. You can go in and out of whatever you would put there. So then maybe easy would be one of the categories. It's whatever you like, but here's the reason for 3 categories. All right? You want to give a 3-part answer every answer you give. A 3-part answer every answer you give. Why would you want to do that? The reason is, if only one of your answers made it into a story, and that happens in print, you have gotten a 3-part answer. You've done the job. You've given the problem, if we're using what you see on screen here, you've given the problem a solution and asked them to act. You've done your job. So here's the perfect little case study for that. I had this guy who is Anthony Pratt, CEO of a big company from Australia. He says, Jess, I'm going to be on the Today Show in a couple of days, and I'm going to be, he was giving $100 million, actually, like all of your listeners today, to the Clinton Global Initiative. And I said, oh, that's great. And he said, I just don't want to do a bad job. I want to mention what I need to mention. And I said, okay, let me ask you, are you going to be inside on the couch, or are you going to be outside, with Al Roker? And he said, oh, actually outside with Al Roker, as you see there. And I said, okay, if anybody understands the idea of getting a 3-part message into every answer, it better be you. And I said, you may only get 1 answer in. And as it turned out, he only got 1 answer in, but he mentioned and it wasn't problem, solution, call to action. We really focused it in for him. So he needed to mention the purpose, the people who were helping and a part of it, and the last part was, I think, it was some version actually of a call to action, saying that he wanted other people to get involved. And he mentioned in one of those three, it also mentioned his company name. He said it was a home run. He did that. He got everything that he wanted done by mentioning those three things. He only got one answer. And then Ann Curry even ran over and kissed him on the cheek.
Wow.
And he had this great marketing piece because she was like, and you're giving money to charity, and she kissed him all the time. And it was this great marketing piece that lives on his website and is terrific.
That's actually one of the keys that we offer to encourage people to schedule appointments too, is when they're asking information, you always have a three-part answer. If they want to know about a crown, you can tell them about, you frame it, you can tell them about the convenient but expensive crown, the perhaps more affordable alternative, and then the third option is always, but fortunately we make it easy for you to come in and give the dentist an opportunity to actually diagnose and examine you so we can make an informed decision, and that's why we offer a complimentary meet and greet so you can see if we're the practice for you. So
Great.
It's like, all right, I've given the information and I've given you no reason not to come in.
And that's it. And the beauty in the three is you know where you're going. I always call this the roadmap, because if you're off and you don't know where you're going or what you're supposed to say, as long as you remember those three headings and you go to a problem or you go to a solution or you try to get people to act, you can start from any of the three. It's just great. It takes a lot of the pain out of interviews and gets people to be on track. Now, I know we're about an hour and I have a lot of other exciting stuff I want to get to, including the pitching part. Very important. Now, why did I start with the media training part and getting your messages together and talking about those headlines? Because I always like to practice what I preach, and I talked about begin with the end in mind. The end is having you be more media ready. And you need to think like a media person. You need to have your answers together to know what you're going to say before you even pitch. So I'd be doing you a huge disservice if I started with this and you didn't really have a clear sense of what you'd want to pitch them. And then you went out there and then they called you up and said, sounds good, what will you say? And you say, humma. That would not be good. Okay, pitching the media. What works, what doesn't? This is an actual email that came to me. I changed the name and phone number to protect the innocent. But these are actual emails that came to me when I was a producer. So here's the subject line. So pay attention very closely so you don't make the same mistakes. Subject line. Is the U.S. headed for a similar merger with Canada and Mexico? All right, I did work on a morning news show on one of the cable networks at the time, and I was paying attention to the news, but from that subject line, it did not compel me to open it, and I had no idea what they were talking about. Similar to what? What? What is going on? And then once I open it, they clutter up what I call the first eyeful of the email with for immediate release. Yeah, of course it's for immediate release. You just emailed it to me. You know, it's not, 1910. Extra, read all about it. It's not. Once you've sent it, you've released it. You don't need to tell me that. And the contact information can be at the bottom. And it wasn't even addressed to me. See what we're learning from this? And because it wasn't addressed to me, I know it's junk. So I can delete it and never respond to this person, especially since I was confused by them. So let's move on. Here is a better one. Here's one that I emailed to a radio station on behalf of a friend who is also a Guinness record holder. And subject line, I put RE in reference to. It looks like we've been having some back and forth. Thought this memory expert would be good radio. Oh, that's pretty interesting. That it would be good radio. Mark, I think this guy would be great. So got them to open it. Of course they want to have good radio. And that's kind of little industry jargon. Hey, that guy's good TV, or this person's good radio. I think this guy would be great for you. He's a world record setting memory expert. He could give your listeners tips from how to remember where you put your keys, or how memory tips can help you keep your job in an up and down economy. And I always end with a yes or no question. Any interest? any interest. So I have this whole thing called above the line and below the line. So if you're taking notes, and this is something you can use all across the board, and Danny and I'm sure we must have talked about this along the way, above the line and below the line, because I remember we were comparing marketing techniques and things like that, and you're marketing to the media, so they'll do the heavy lifting and put you out there. Above the line is just something short, hey, I have something good. Would this work for you? Yes or no question, which requires only a yes or no answer, which means they might actually reply to you. Below the line is all of the meat. There's the picture there, there's the a big press release or a big article, or hey, here's what I talk about. You put that all below the line because it gives the feeling that you've sent a short email, even though the email may be 10 pages long. So it's kind of a psychological thing. When Tiger Woods had his little apology tour, remember he had a little situation with his wife and and drove the truck all over the place and was, he was all over the place. He was out there and he waited 3 months, and then he decided he will apologize to the world and his family and all of that. So the email subject line, Ari, I tend to use that here and there, so that ideally they'll open it up. It looks like we've been having a back and forth. Only 2 times has anyone ever, a media person ever said, hey, I know what you're doing. We didn't really have a back and forth, and they weren't even mad about it. They just kind of chuckled. Available for Tiger Woods stories. So the subject line is one of the most important things you can do when you're emailing the media to have to get them to open it and be excited. And then it says POV, point of view, inside or below, and then they have to open it up. So when they open it up, this guy went by the name Schaefer. It was his last name. So that's how I had it set in my email delivery system. And at that time, I think I was even using Outlook. Schaefer, do you need someone to talk about Tiger Woods today or tomorrow? That's a yes or no question. P.S. Full info, point of view, below the line. So they get everything they want, and I'm even going to refine what I'm telling you now below the line. If you can have something that looks big like a headline, I chose that day, available for Tiger Woods interviews, because it was a big story. And notice that I have even all bolded, the business of Tiger Woods. This way they can say, yeah, that's going to impact the business of Tiger Woods. They can start to visualize and think and feel and taste and smell what it is that I might be good for. So use a headline. Take your name and make it a link so that you can put your bio on, get them to go to your web page, but that's where your bio would go, and it's not taking too much area on the email. And then a section that I always encourage is bullet points of your point of view. This is huge. Now, where would you get some of these bullet points? From that long list you wrote out earlier. The actual things you might say. So here comes a big golden nugget for everyone who's listening. So take out that pen. The golden nugget is media people need to know what you will say before you'll say it, to know if they want to have you on. So if you said ways to become more kissable, like I had said on there, or we had the example earlier, and all the things that you say are sit down and meditate for 2 hours. Now, while some of you might be thinking, well, hey, that is a good idea, some people will be turned off by it. They need to know what you will say. You stand on one foot and you can do these things. No, they may not like that. But if you say, hey, try this technique, or it really comes down to this special mouthwash, or not eating these certain foods, or having this certain amount of time in between when you're going to meet a person, or how to get rid of the smell of onions. You could put all those. That's interesting. But they need to know, will you bring the goods or will you not? This was off the Guinness push about topics that we could include. The best way to present yourself in a job interview, best way to present yourself at work, best way to present yourself when networking, Obama's speaking style. So you can even put bullet points on your topics. And that's what we did, and how we continue to try to push people during that whole thing. So if I were to give you a template, and I'm giving it to you right now, my template for emailing the media is this. Hi, first name, you see it there, Barry. Would the story work for you? You could even have it be that short and put everything else below the line. Little bit of, and you could even, in between the line, as I noticed I put 2 lines, you could even put a little bit of contact information, or you could put it all the way at the bottom, but then have a headline, a subtitle, and point of view. Dr. Barry Friedberg can say blank, and then you follow it with just the meat of what you'd say, either a big piece or article or any of those things. And notice the subject line. Hospitals save money you might pay with your life. I had a doctor who I did some training and consulting for, and he was saying, he was an anesthesiologist, if you don't have a brain monitor, if your anesthesiologist doesn't use a brain monitor, then they are not monitoring what they are sedating, which is your brain, and you know, it's the whole thing. And you could die or not wake up as you. Not too good. So we want you to get the most from your exposure. That is, let me just go back for a second here. That is really the big template for what you should do. And that combined with a Rolodex and having the right Rolodex are the 2 big components to really getting started. Just staying in front of them. You can send 1 or 2 emails. I'm going to give you a little case study, and let's see if I have it loaded up here. I'm going to just jump ahead to where I have a good little case study that you might like, which is our former New York Congressman Anthony Weiner. Not too long ago, last year in fact, he decided to team up with his cell phone camera.
Okay.
And you might remember the story. He was taking pictures of himself in his underwear and such, and sending it to women on Twitter. Probably not a good idea. So now you would think in terms of what that would equal. Well, for me, it equaled opportunity. I used it as a big opportunity. So here's the email that I wrote. Weiner, subject line, Weiner fallout, available media consultant. So this is right after this happened. It wasn't after he stepped down, and he ended up stepping down. Hi, Mike. If you're looking for a media consultant to provide quotes on this story, Representative Weiner, let me know. Here are things I might say. So I sent this out to just my print list. I was busy that week. I said, I don't have time to get on the phone or go to do a TV interview. I'm just going to send it to my print list.
Hey,
so,
Jess, I just have to ask.
Yeah.
Is that an intentional double entendre over there?
Which part here?
Weiner fallout. Yeah.
It actually was not.
I would hope not.
Yes, it fell out of his clothing, right. I guess.
Proceed.
But it was the fallout that you know, now I'm thinking back. It wasn't intentional, but it just happened to be the case. But it was all this fallout and these stories. And
you're that good.
What was that?
You're that good. You don't even know it anymore.
You didn't even know it. Oh, and he was going on Wolf Blitzer, and he was joking about it before it came out that he really did it. It was horrible for him. Great for me. And in fact, I wasn't sure I was even going to do this story, and I was thinking, I don't know if I want to do it, but I figured, you know what? It should be something that they want to talk to me about. So I sent these bullet points of things I would say. I want you to look up there on the second thing from the top. This got quoted all over the place. They loved it. He can never truly get past this story. He has mortally wounded his political career, but that doesn't mean he can't star in a reality show or host a program on CNN. Now, why did that work? I used some of my soundbite elements, which is mortally wounded, bold action words. I said he can always star in a reality show, which is a pop culture reference to the fact that a lot of these fallen politicians end up getting their own reality show or being on a reality show. Blagojevich, he wanted to, he was the one who tried to sell Obama. See, he was trying to get on a reality shows. Some of the others got programs on CNN. So it was a little bit of pop culture reference. It was an attack. These are some of the soundbite elements that you can work into your answers. And just to give you a few, attack. Rhetorical questions are great as sound bites. I'd write these down. Rhetorical questions, attacks, humor if it's not making you look bad in some sort of way. If in doubt, leave it out. Don't use it if you think it's not a good idea. Analogies, using analogies. I worked with an emergency room physicians group, and they said the system is literally being held together by Band-Aids. So, you know, we had a nice little analogy, and it got picked up. They used it. So, just letting you know, this story, Anthony Weiner, it went to the Washington Post, it went to the Washington Times, Philadelphia Inquirer. Now, this is just one email that I had sent out initially. I said I sent two. But the first one, when it went to the Philadelphia Inquirer, what I didn't know, and I have this list of about, I think it's 1,000 or 2,000 newspapers. They got it. Well, the Philadelphia Inquirer, I didn't know this. Let me back up for a second. I have so many things I want to share. They share their stories with other newspapers. I did not know that. So boom, instantly I was in 15 more newspapers. And then other people started seeing it, and then Google started seeing it, and obviously I care about that. And then I sent out a second batch. Forbes.com put it in there. Vancouver Sun quoted me. Financial Times. The Atlantic. This is great. I can now put all of these logos on my website and say, as seen and quoted in all these outlets that you see on here. And these are obviously some of the best ones. So that made me look really great. Oh, Dallas News put me on there as well. Now, I mentioned earlier, Washington Post said, Jess Todtfeld is a media training expert. The one of the three articles that they wrote about that wasn't as great basically said, you know, he sent out this this email to publicists, and it had all of these different answers, and I noticed that other newspapers are just printing his answers verbatim, and that's not right. And then he went on to print every one of my answers verbatim. So I had all these people emailing me saying, you know, aha, good job, I can't believe you, the guy who's mad even wrote all your things. But the best thing for all of you who are listening is I want you to have on your website the person, the doctor that the Washington Post calls blank. That would be great. The Washington Times, in that same push, said the public relations mavens weigh in. Jess Todtfeld says this. So now, in the right situations, it says Jess Todtfeld, the man that the Washington Times calls a public relation maven. And I've used the heck out of that. It all comes back, though, if you really want to make strides today, you want to get out there, and I want you to get out there, it comes down to having a good Rolodex. And if it's, okay, Danny, I want to give an offer to people. You mentioned in the beginning there would be some sort of an offer. I want to offer them my Rolodex and how that would work. And
yeah, absolutely, Jess. You know, people that have attended our webcast, they know that we do occasionally cajole or otherwise coerce our presenters to offer something of value. And yeah. I have to say, you've taken it really to a new level. And what Jess wants to offer, he's shown to me, takes a little explaining. I think it's actually part and parcel of the presentation, because what he's done to date is shown you and given you some, as with most things, you can attempt to take them and run with them yourself, and you can learn on the way, and many of you will. And the alternative is to get on a steeper learning curve. And so by all means, spend the time we've got. Let's try to save a little time to get to our callers' questions, because our audience's questions, because we do have a few. And by all means, go right ahead, Jess. Thanks for asking.
Perfect. And I'm glad that you're watching and keeping an eye on those questions, because we want to get to that. So yes, you want to have your media emails ready to go. If you would like to get a hold of my list that I put together and worked very hard on, you can do that. I have segmented my list. The exact print list that I used for that campaign with Anthony Weiner, I thought it was 2,000, but I guess it's 2,800 contacts that I have on there. I've since built it up a little bit. And literally, I send it out, send 1 or 2 emails. If anybody bites, great. If not, then, you know, on to the next story. It's no big deal. National TV, some of you may say, you know, that'd be kind of nice, especially when there's a big story out there, like the American Heart Association, and they have somebody on Good Morning America Some of you like the sound of that. So about 1,000 contacts, just under obviously, for national TV. I talked about those national talk radio program directors, the bosses. That's just under 2,000 contacts. I have since updated these and made them fresher and all that, but they are the bosses. I continue to use it. The last time I sent something out, I think I got 9 radio interviews. And so for me, it's sometimes turning people away because now I have a lot under my belt. And then I have this mixed group of that I just have in there, about 1,600. So in total, you're talking about 7,000 contacts. And obviously, you don't always send it out to all 7,000. You pick where you'd like to appear or what's what, or maybe even you just see who in there in your area is available. So you have to have those media emails ready to go, either in Outlook or Constant Contact or somewhere where you could just write a quick email and deploy it. So purchased elsewhere is about $3,500 to $5,000. Vocus, if you wanted to look into this, Vocus sells it for, they both are probably closer to $5,000 for the way they sell it. And Burrell's, which is now, it's called something else, but it was called Burrell's. And if you search Burrell's, it'll switch over to the new name that they call themselves. But for Practice Perfection folks today, $997. And I wanted to sweeten things up and make it a real no-brainer for people. And I wanted to add as much hand-holding as I could. So what I added, oh, and today only, so if you're listening on a replay, I'll let Danny figure out how to make it be a today-only thing. But I wanted to add in video. I have a couple of DVDs where I literally go through, if you're going to have somebody on your team handle this and be able to be the person, the point person to make this come together. There are DVDs where I go even more in depth into how to pitch the media, the template, what the media is thinking. I have one where I talk about that Guinness record interview, and so some people like to say, I want to replicate something big. Okay, fine. But at the very least, if you had someone on your team watch how to pitch the media DVD, they'd be able to be off and running. And then there are all these great audios, including right in the middle of the page there, a media training primer. So when you say, Jess, this was good, but I got someone to say yes, uh-oh, now what? You can listen to this thing for an hour and you'd hear me walking you through what to do, going even more in depth, we couldn't today, into sound bites and all of that, and what I also call the answer system, so how to be more in control during the answer portions. And then I interview public relations people, CNN producer on there, somebody at, if you want to just do more radio interviews. I have people who are experts in their field, and that's all part of this kit of about, I think it was 9 discs. So I'm including that. I'm going to throw it in. That's $1,000 value. I'm just going to include it. And that will give you that hand-holding and help. But I'm also going to include another binder of more help. Now, you don't sit and watch and listen to every single one of these, just the ones that really get you or the person who's going to handle this for you off and running. So I actually did another DVD where I show even more of the pitches that work and don't work, so that you can see some of the mistakes people have made. I cover the names to protect the innocent, and what actually worked. I talked to someone from Good Morning America for an hour. If that's your dream to get on there, I have a CD on that. I really have a lot of great content. People tell me all the time, you know, oh, I listen to these things in my car, and boy, they've really helped me. If you do have other product that you ever want to sell through an interview or radio or something like that, that last disc at the bottom talks more about the selling techniques, and Danny probably likes a lot of that for the sales techniques over the phone. If you ever want to do reality TV, I interviewed someone who really was on The Apprentice, and she was just a regular person who, well, she's an attorney and really turned into something big. So both those binders, this is also included. That's $1,000 value. So you'll get that Rolodex, the 7,000 contacts, the 2 box sets, which is really 3 DVDs, 15 audio CDs. That's a $3,000. I really think it's more than $3,000 total value because the contacts themselves could be $5,000. But Usually on my website, I usually sell any of those 3 components for about $1,000 each. So today, altogether, $997, and you get the hand holding, but I want to make it a no-brainer for everybody. So I'm going to, let's see here. I know I wrote it down. $497.
That's what I thought. When you said $997, I thought, well, didn't we agree that we'd let people who are attending today
You're going to give it to everybody and make it really sweet? No, that's right.
Unfortunately, I don't think anybody peeled off the call, so they're hearing it. So
well, my goal, and you know what, I really want people to succeed. I want them. I'm going to tell you how you can. I'm going to just put something on screen here. There we go. $497. Okay. PracticePerfection.com. You click Buy Now. It has the instructions. I just want to leave that on the screen.
Yeah, that header, by the way, that's the landing page. So if you go to PracticePerfection.com and just scroll to the top, the menu bar there, just to make sure it's clear, click on Buy Now, and you'll get to a shopping cart, and you'll select Jess's offering, which is it shows the CDs and the DVDs and the books. So it's pretty straightforward. And that's for today only, just so you know. We need to give them a code, right?
I mean, they could buy it for $997 after today, but I don't think they probably want to. The code, oh, my bad, as they say, is Media115, the promo code on the screen.
Yeah, that's going to be valid for the rest of today, which, what's today, the 15th of January. So please, if you're interested, it will go up to $997 because we don't expect everyone to act today. Some people will take their time, and I think that's okay with you, right, Jess?
Yeah, it's fine. And good luck to you figuring out how to offer that to people who are listening on the replay. But you'll figure that out.
I just stated. I just timestamped it. So
oh, you did. Okay. So now I know we said this is going to be around 90 minutes. And so we're about to take questions, but I just want to say I really wanted to make this a no-brainer for people today. If you're saying, you know, gee, it'd be fun to do interviews, or I obviously realize how this could help my business. You and I have talked about how this is a nice major part of people's marketing. People ask me what PR is all the time, and I always say it's just another method for all the levels of your marketing. It's another angle to go at, but one that can be ping-ponged around all of your social media and on your website and the rest of it. So I hope that what I've given people today really has a lot of hand-holding. And if people had burning questions, you also get my email, and I usually make sure that people are off and running and started, so you get extra support. And if you don't like it, just return it and I'll give you money back. I wouldn't want you to
well, I can tell you, folks, if it's not abundantly clear to you that Jess is the real article. In fact, he was the only one that was paid to appear at AOSH last year, and I just wanted to share that because our keynote speaker was Dr. I forgot his name, Dr. Oz's writing partner, Rosane, who does realage.com. So he offers a lot of value, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to our people today. We did get a number of questions. I do want to wrap things up as close to
let's go through them. Yes.
Yeah. So,
I know we said around 90 minutes, so we're going to we'll keep it as close to that, but I want to get to the questions. Go ahead. Hit me with some.
Okay, thank you. Well, Boris wanted to know, well, how much is too much? And I think in terms of explaining your offer to us, you talked about the $7,000 and how you don't need to and perhaps don't want to send everything to everybody all the time. So, I mean, I guess in terms of this, I think what he's saying is, if I can put words in your mouth, Boris, or just clarify, is there an optimum in terms of frequency and interval that you reach out to the media with the same subject, or when would you vary the subject, and how long would you wait before you sent out another pitch?
I would send out, for those who are getting started being in front of the media on a more consistent basis, I would say every 2-3 weeks you could be sending out a story. Believe me, I can't remember what I did 3 weeks ago, so it's enough time to feel like a lot of time has gone by. But how much is too much? You know, too much. I mean, on the contact side, like you had just said, it's segmenting and deciding who you want to reach out to. They don't know that you sent it out to thousands of people. If it says, "Hi, Danny," the way I have people write the emails is it looks like everybody got an individual email.
Very good.
If the question was focused on how much is too much publicity, well, you know at a certain point if you can't meet the demands of your practice, that would be too much. But you're going to hit a certain point where in the very beginning, you get a couple, little bit. Media people are starting to get to know you. They're seeing you pop up, and then you're in the rotation. Then they have you in their Rolodex, and they're calling you from time to time. And it's a great thing. And once you have 10, 20 outlets, and you put that all over your website, I mean, talk about credibility. It's exciting. And obviously you can put it in waiting room, play it in the waiting room. What other questions?
I think just to clarify where I think Boris was coming from, because I think I know because of all the conversations I have with doctors as clients, there's a tendency to think, well, it's certainly true that in marketing more is less or less is more, and you can inundate people. However, I think we often, I don't know if flatter is the right word, but I think we overstate the attention span of people, that especially these journalists, they're being bombarded with information. If you think they're able to remember, oh, this guy sent me something 3 weeks ago, this is too frequently, I don't think that happens very often. So if anything, I would err on the side of more frequency. And I just want to move on, because a lot of these questions that were asked, I think, have already been answered. Stan asked a good question, though, which is, if he is being left to his own devices, his question is, what is the value added of a third-party endorsement? In other words, if Danny Bobber was sending an email saying, hi, I think I'd be great for this subject, what do you think? Isn't there some value in having someone else sort of bragging for you instead of bragging for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, if you were to work with a financial advisor, wouldn't you want to work with somebody who somebody said this person did right by me or this person was good?
Yep.
If you were going to hire somebody, wouldn't you want to have some sort of third-party information that no, they've worked for me and I'm not just saying it, but they've done the right job and did what they need? That third-party credibility. Even when you say, well, I don't know, maybe somebody's going to pick my practice because it's close to their house. I know I would much rather, in times that I've done both, I'd much rather pick a medical professional that I've heard about, where I've heard, gee, their office is so clean, they're so nice and so helpful, and they really did an amazing job. I love the people there. Done and done. If I heard something like that. So that's obviously a recommendation. So how does it end up being a third-party recommendation from the media? Well, if they're saying that you're the expert, you're great, you know what you're talking about, it's certainly something that separates you from all the others that are out there. And you can work into the story. You can say, hey, I have a patient who can talk about their experience. So now the patient is talking about their experience in the media interview, but essentially to our target audience, because they'd be watching or reading it on your website. So I'm a huge proponent of using this method.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you very much again, Jess. I think the value and the immediate applicability of what you offer is self-evident, so I want to thank you for that. I do want to just take control of the screen here so I can invite everybody who's interested in subscribing and receiving invitations. Many of you obviously already are, to our future webcasts does so, but for those of you who want to make sure you're on the email list, simply go to practiceperfection.com and then scroll down and click on the Practice Perfection Educational Series webinar box, and you will be taken to this form or this form, and you'll be on the list. So again, Jess, thank you very much. Really enjoyed it. I'm sure our audience did as well. The attention span, as we're able to measure here, was very good. Nobody peeled off the call until just the last few minutes.
Well, thank you.
So, congratulations and thank you. And thank you all for your time. I know we ran a little bit late. I apologize for that. I look forward to seeing you again in a future installment of Practice Perfection. In the meantime, this is Danny Bobrow, thanking you for your commitment to Practice Perfection.
Thanks, everybody.